All right, copper nerds, let's talk about ethics. Let's talk about the ethics associated with coin collecting, coin buying, coin selling, coin conservation, coin stuff. Ethics, coin stuff. Let's get into it. First things first, I know you're thinking Dan just is continuing to drink because I saw his last video where he was drinking whiskey and then now here he is drinking more whiskey. And you know, since this is a video about ethics, I'm just gonna come clean. I finished that last video 5 minutes ago, edited it, and having glass 2. Just seems like a good day to drink whiskey with you guys and talk about coin related issues. Should I spill it everywhere? Don't roll. Okay. Ethics. I've thought about making this video for a long time and then just never did. I never really wrapped my head around how to present it. But since I've got one glass of whiskey in me, it seemed like that's the time to do it. So we'll see what direction this goes. I may need to, edit in some splices if I get myself on tangents and can't find my way back home. But ethics of coin collecting. Probably the first thing that's going to come to mind when you think about this channel is coin care and conservation and disclosure of the same. I suspect that that's a concern that people have when they see me doing as much as I do to my coins, whether or not that is something that I will disclose. And the answer is sometimes yes and sometimes no. And let's talk about that a little bit. In fact, as I'm looking at my N12 washer here, I see that it probably could use a little acetone. So I'm gonna hit it with acetone while we're talking. Maybe I should try some whiskey on it. Should we see if that works or not? Let me grab a Q-tip and come right back because I'm gonna throw some acetone on this one while we talk about the ethics of conserving coins. Ethics of coin conservation. I think if you've done anything to permanently alter or impair the coin, that you need to disclose that if it's not readily apparent. If you drop a coin and it picks up a big rim bump, you don't need to disclose that, in my estimation. If you applied sulfur paste to a coin to make it brown again and it's not readily apparent, then absolutely, people need to be told what you've done there. Is whiskey a good solvent for grime? It does not look like it. I thought this might be a fun little revelation. There's maybe a little bit of crap coming off, but let's let that dry out while we're talking, and then I'll hit it with acetone, which is what we should be using. If you have applied sulfur paste like I did to that coin after I had conserved a bunch of green growing verdigris off of the reverse and a little bit behind the cap, absolutely, you need to disclose that this coin has been cleaned and recolored, which this one has been. It's presenting pretty dry at the moment. Maybe we'll oil that while we're waiting on that whiskey to come off. Routine stuff like oiling and brushing your coins does not need to be disclosed because it is truly expected in the EAC community that you are maintaining your coins in such a fashion. So that I would not let stress you out at all. Certainly it's something you should offer, that this coin has been properly maintained during my period of curation with occasional brush and oil. I think that's fine. There we are. Curious to see how this one holds up over the years. If you look back, I did a long 2-part series where we took some EDTA powder, which is this stuff, this tetrasodium, and we put it in a very concentrated mix with some water, with like not much water, soaked it to get some of that green corrosion to loosen up and come off, which it did. It left behind some red cuprous oxide, which is the sort of final form that corrosion takes, and that really cannot be removed. Once it's there, it's there. And then we use some sulfur paste to tone this coin back up. And truly, the end result is far, far better than what we started with. But ethically, you should absolutely disclose when you're selling that this coin has had verdigris removed and has had a darkening agent applied to it. At a minimum, you need to say that it has been conserved, cleaned, and retoned. Okay, acetone. How about using acetone generally to maintain a coin, take some of this like black crap out of the nooks and crannies? Does that need to be disclosed? I say no. I think you would be surprised to learn that really most coins that have circulated, that don't have a bunch of black grime and stuff in the protected areas, they have had this type of a treatment done. And there's nothing wrong with this type of a treatment. You can see that the end of the Q-tip is getting a little dark from the gunk and the whiskey that's coming off of it. But no, what we're doing here, again, on a circulated coin that is not high grade, is just some pretty standard owner level, collector level maintenance is all that is. I wouldn't even call it conservation, it is maintenance. Conservation gets a little trickier. If someone's really good at conservation, you won't know they've worked on a coin. Should that be disclosed? I know it's usually not. Should it be ethically? What do you think? I think it probably should. But I can assure you, it is not. You've definitely got nice coins in your collection that at some point in the last couple centuries have been conserved. If it's done correctly, you should not know that it's happened. And that's where it gets tricky with the ethics. I'm gonna switch to a different Q-tip. Look how much crap came off of there, and this one's still covered in whiskey. That's where it gets tough, is that quite honestly, most coins have been conserved if they look good at all. If they're covered in grime and stuff, like this one still kind of was, then maybe less so. But most coins have been conserved. You don't have any reason to know it. You didn't know it when you got it. You didn't know it when you sold it. And you didn't disclose that coin had been conserved because, again, you didn't know about it. And if that's the case, I think that those kinds of things can slide. I don't think you should feel responsible for someone previously having conserved a coin without it being brought to your attention when you bought it, or without it being something that you've picked up just through your close inspection of the coin. What do we think? There's a little less crap on there now. Probably needs a little oil at this point. Get that gross Q-tip in the trash. All right. Still staying on topic here. So maintenance stuff, wouldn't worry about it. Actual conservation work that might not be readily apparent, I do think you have an obligation to pass that along when you sell a coin. So the ethics of conservation, that is one area that we should be cognizant of. And I think just disclosing what you do is the way to go. That should be pretty apparent because I do all this stuff on camera with y'all and I'm not trying to hide anything. That really looks better. That really looks better. And if someone who's, knows what they're doing tells me that they have maintained and conserved a coin, that is good. I'm glad. If I buy a coin from, I don't know, Bill Eckberg, and he says he's worked on it a little bit and improved it, awesome. I would not consider that a negative at all. That really did come out better. Okay. Put my screw back through it. There you go. How about the ethics of, so we've talked about the ethics of conservation, which kind of dovetails into the ethics of selling. Yeah, this Jim Bridger whiskey remains fantastic, just as it was 15 minutes ago when I recorded the last video. Of course, there may be one video in between that one and this one because I kind of sprinkle the deep dives in between the rambly stuff. We've kind of come up with a few different categories of video, and this one's definitely a rambly video if you haven't picked that up. Selling coins, I think you have every obligation to be as accurate as possible and as honest as possible in your listings. Again, if you dropped a coin and caused a rim ding on it, you don't need to tell people like, hey, I dropped this one. It's just been dropped. I would describe anything that's not readily apparent from the photos. Again, if I was listing this coin, I would literally say it is an 1847 large cent, that it had green verdigris growing on the reverse, that it was treated with EDTA, and along with the spot behind the hair on the obverse, and then it was recolored and then conserved with oil and brush. That's how I would describe this coin, because that's what's been done to it. This coin, I don't think requires much explanation. Just like, hey, it is what it is. You can kind of see what it is. I haven't done anything to it. And I have done absolutely nothing to it. It's damaged. It's got corrosion issues. It's ugly. How about something like that? It's obviously been cleaned. I know it's been cleaned. I think you can even tell from the video without close-ups that it's been cleaned. It does have red in the protected areas, which makes me think it's been dipped and then it's retoned some. It's definitely not original red. There's enough circulation on the coin that it could not have circulated and remained original red. So I would describe that one as clean because I want to describe things accurately, but I wouldn't describe much more than just having some good photos. It's really the latent stuff that you're aware of that I think you have an obligation to disclose when you sell it. If there's a bunch of hairline scratches that you really only see under a loop, and the photos don't capture it, should you be describing that? Yes. Even if the photos do capture it subtly, should you be describing it? Yes. I think if it's something that's not, readily apparent, that you have an obligation when you're selling to disclose. How about ethics of buying? This is going to get a little more tricky. If you're buying a coin from a dealer, let's say, and you know that it's an R5 coin and they haven't attributed it, do you have any obligation to help the dealer not rip themselves off by not having that coin properly attributed? I think no, that's their job. You're getting a great deal and your attribution skills are helping you get that great deal. The dealer is in the business of professionally selling coins. I don't think you owe them that at all. If it's a dealer you work with often that you're friends with, then sure, hook them up, but if you just walk into a random coin shop and they have got whatever, like a low-grade Sheldon 66 split pole going for $400 and you know it's worth $1,000, buy it for $400. Congratulations. Now, if I had one of you come to me and say, hey, I watch your channel, I know that you know a lot about 1794s, thought maybe you could help me figure out, how or where to sell this. I'm not going to say, oh yeah, that's kind of a low grade 1794. I'll give you $400, knowing that it's a split pole worth $1,000. Ethically, I would never do that. I just won't. If it's someone that's coming to you for your expertise, do not take advantage of that person. It's about the worst ethical thing I can think of to do in the hobby, and it's tempting because you know what it is. Ripping off grandma or ripping off someone who inherited some coins because you know what they have and they don't is no way for an honest, noble person to behave. And I think that the coin collecting hobby in general, but even more particularly early copper, is full of very good, respectable people. I think that the type of person who's drawn to copper is a sophisticated person typically, because you're looking at these little nuanced things and you're really into history and whatnot. Otherwise, you wouldn't have picked copper to be your area of interest. Do the right thing. Be a good collector. Keep this particular community as honest and with as much integrity as we can. There's plenty of terrible stories about people that are put in positions of trust ripping people off. You can do your own research, but, I'll just mention it. I'm just going to mention it. In fact, I'm just going to mention it. There's a couple people in this community that are very defensive about this subject, but whatever. You're probably not watching this channel anyway. You are familiar with Dr. William Sheldon. Yes, you should be. You definitely should be. I can't imagine that you're not, but I'm going to make sure and tell you a little bit of backstory too, in case I say Dr. William Sheldon, you have no idea who that is. Dr. Sheldon was not real successful as a medical doctor. But he was very successful in numismatics. He wrote a number of books. Probably the most well-known is Penny Whimsy, which I have a copy of, and let me go grab it. All right, here's Dr. Sheldon's book, Penny Whimsy. So, Dr. Sheldon became an early large scent specialist. He is who did the attributions of all of the early date large scents from 1793 through 1814. The S in your S designation on your early scents stands for Sheldon. Your whatever it is, your S55 large scent is a Sheldon 55 large scent. So he wrote this book. It's a nice little book. Talks about large scents in general, and then goes through each variety, describing it, and then towards the end of the Fallen Floor, there's plates that you can follow through, right? This is not a very good attribution book. You'll pull your hair out doing attributions using this book, but it's a fantastic reference. It's a book you should have. Then he's got some NCs in the back here as well, which I should take a look at, actually. I haven't looked through the NC section. But. So, that is Dr. Sheldon. Dr. Sheldon was consulted often as an expert by people that were doing auctions. He also had access to some really important collections when he was working on his research for his attributions. Dr. Sheldon had access to the Clapp collection, which is at the American Numismatic Society. And what he did, there's no question that he did it. What he did was he would take his lower grade examples of a coin from his collection and he would swap it out for a higher grade coin of the same variety from the Clapp collection. And then no one would be the wiser. And that went on for his whole life. Hundreds of coins, 100 and some odd coins were stolen from the Clapp collection, from estates. He would come in and catalog coins for estate sales and things, and he would do the same thing. Oh, that one's nicer than mine. Or that's in a die state that I like better, so we'll switch them. No one's gonna know. He went on doing that for his whole lifetime, and it turns out he was a klepto. He stole shit all the time. There's plenty of documentation. I'm gonna throw a link in the description here, and if you don't see the link in the description, let me know so I can add it, because I won't upload this video for probably a week or so, and I might forget. But there's like an hour and a half presentation that's really, really well done that tells this whole story. Long story short, along the way, I think it might have been Homer Downing, the very famous collector. My memory might be wrong there. Homer Downing was a large cent collector, and on the word 100 on the edge lettering of the 1794s, he would with yellow paint mark the first and last letter, the H and the D of 100 for Homer Downing, which is kind of cool. I could do the same thing with the D and the R in dollar, but I don't think I have Homer Downing status yet, so I probably shouldn't mess with any coins. But I think it was Downing that was working with Sheldon on his research, and that could be wrong. If it's wrong, you'll see what's correct in this other video. I'm gonna link. I haven't watched it for like 6 months. So it's really good. I've watched it a few times, but photographed the Clapp collection. So at some point after Sheldon's death, after Sheldon had sold his collection to Ted Nafsker, who then turned around and sold just the duplicates and paid off the whole collection, which makes you think, you know, he probably got a pretty good deal on it. And if you watch that video, you'll find that one of Ted's people discovered that Sheldon had been stealing coins, and the allegation is that Ted sort of blackmailed Sheldon into selling the whole collection on the cheap because he knew a bunch of it was stolen, and it was. Anyway, Nasker sold off his duplicates to pay off the entire collection, and then at some point, the ANS was like, hey, why are all of our coins switched out? We're looking at these historical photos of our collection, and there's a bunch of downgrades in there, and wow, they ended up in Sheldon and Nasker's coins. So Sheldon robbed people blind throughout his whole lifetime, people that trusted him to be an expert on numismatics, and he was just stealing their coins left and right, switching out lower grades for higher grades. And there's people who claim, no, he was allowed to do that. That's how he was compensated for his work. Oh, they said it was okay if he switched out coins for different die states. You're going to have people that say that, and I don't know what's true or not. But what I do know is that if you are put in a position where you are being relied on as a subject matter expert, the ethics are very, very important, that you are not ripping people off. And it's so easy to do, and you might get away with it. You might get away with it 10 times. You might get away with it 100 times. You might not get caught till you're dead like Sheldon. And I don't know how... There's a big black cloud over William Sheldon that I don't think gets talked about often enough, and it's a very important ethical issue, you know? And it's one thing to be a bad person outside of numismatics. That doesn't concern me as much. For example, without even having to get up from my desk, Walter Breen was a child molester who died in prison after molesting a bunch of kids. He was a bad person. Did he use numismatics to prey on kids? You know what? He might have. Which is enough of a tie-in for me to say. Every time I pick up that book, I'm always feel a little slimy about it. But I know there was good people that contributed to that book as well, like Del Bland and Mark Borchardt. So, you know, I'm still going to use the book. It's a good book. But Walter Breen was a bad person. He was a child molester who died in prison. William Sheldon was a thief. He contributed a lot to the hobby of the numismatics, but this guy was robbing coins from old people's estate sales. I mean, that, if we're talking about ethics, is a major problem. Does me describing this coin as having been cleaned or retoned, if I failed to do that, does that put me in the same camp as Sheldon? I mean, sort of at the very, very bottom end of it. But, you know, the ethics are important, and you damage the community that you claim to love when you act and behave like that within that community. The scandal that is the Sheldon and Nasker stolen switched coins debacle is just ridiculous. And then to a lesser extent, someone who's a central figure like Breen out there molesting kids, that's pretty bad too. We need to do better as a hobby, and we cannot tolerate any of that kind of behavior. So when you are consulted as an expert, you need to be honest. When you're selling coins, you need to be honest. When you're conserving coins beyond regular maintenance, you need to be honest. When you're buying coins from a dealer, if you are the subject matter expert and they are not, they chose to be a coin dealer. You didn't choose for them to choose that profession and not educate themselves as well as you have. Take advantage of those situations every time. At least I do. I don't feel bad about that. How about, you know, I see stuff on eBay sometimes where it's a coin that I don't care about, and I know it's not attributed, and I know that they should get a lot more money than what they have it listed at, and I'm not trying to buy it and flip it. Do I message those sellers? Sometimes. Not always. I don't feel like I have an obligation to, but if I'm feeling nice that day, I'll say, hey, just so you know, this is a rare whatever variety. I used to do that a little more often than I do now. Just, again, a lot of my time goes towards the channel instead of surfing around on Facebook or eBay. But, you know, if you have a seller who is clearly a novice, I try and let them know. If you have a seller who's clearly a large dealer and just doesn't care and they're just slapping inventory out there, let someone get that good deal even if you don't want it. But if you have someone who's like, this was in my grandpa's coin collection and I'm selling it on eBay and they don't know what it is, I think ethically letting them know what they have isn't the right thing to do, and I do that. Ethics of photography when you're selling. I think you need to make sure that the photos are accurate. Don't do a whole lot of adjustments to the photos to make them look better when that's not what the coin actually looks like. I think the coin should be accurately reflected by the photos. And if you do use any enhancements for purposes of showing off something, just note that it's been enhanced to show a scratch or whatever. I think that those are important ethical considerations. Yeah, I think that kind of covers ethics in a nutshell. Let's go with that. It was my first attempt at an ethics video, so I may circle back and after I've regrouped on this subject and add some more thoughts, but I think those are the big ones. Just, I don't know. If there's a takeaway with early copper, just don't be a garbage person. Just treat other people in the hobby as you would expect to be treated within the hobby, and we should all be just fine. Thanks for checking this one out. Hit me up in the comments. Go check out that video that I've linked in the comments. If I haven't linked that video in the comments, remind me and I will link it in the comments. It is a fantastic, very interesting watch on that whole Sheldon Nafsker debacle. And I will catch you on the next one. Peace.